In the last video, I show you how to add functionality to a Python package, and at the end of the video, I show you how to um, push the package to GitHub and then automatically deploy and build the documentation. But at the end of the deployment, we got some errors. So if you are using the Python package template, following my video tutorials to develop the package, eventually you might encounter this kind of error. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually do the debugging and fix these errors. Later in this video series, I will also show you how to actually do this kind of automated deployment. But for now, I think we need to fix this one because we added some noble examples. So let me show you here examples. And so we added a noble example here, this one. If the deployment fail, that means the documentation fail, but everything else works just fine. So if the documentation failed to build, that means the documentation website won't be updated. So if you click the link here, if you go to this one, notebooks, you won't select one. So this is basically everything is automatic. You don't need to edit this website. All things are built automatically using Markdown. So if you want to fix this error, we need to actually go to the source code. So all the website documents actually come from this documents in here. And so this is how we're going to do the debugging. It's very common if you are using GitHub or you are writing open source software packages. After you deploy to GitHub, if you use a GitHub actions, so these are all the so-called GitHub actions. You can click here, actions, to take a look, right? So these are all the actions being executed or being taken by GitHub automatically. So once you set up those files, you will see here on the left side, we have build and docs and also PyPI. So the build, basically after the package, after you add some functionality, it's going to automatically build the package. And this one, we make sure that after the package, after you finish the packing up the package, it can be installed successfully by the user. So basically GitHub tested it for you. And the docs means it's basically the documentation. So that you have a website up and running without having to actually build the website by yourself. PyPI is the package being deployed to PyPI successfully. And we have done this one before when we created the template, but we're going to do it later. For now, you can just leave it as this. And so in this video, I'm going to fix this error. I can also quickly show you where those files come from. If you go to your package template that you develop, go into the GitHub, and then workflows. Within here, you will see these 3 files. So this is why in the GitHub actions, everything's come from here, and things can be customized. So if you click, for example, the docs, inside you will be able to see the source code being executed. And so we run into errors, and we're going to fix this one. But I already did some testing, so I figured out that something is wrong with this one. So I can quickly show you here. Let's click this. Anytime when you have some errors during the deployment, you can click details, and then from the detail you should be able to figure out exactly what's wrong. So in here, all the dependencies are installed successfully, but there's one here, the last step, mkdocs deploy false. This one failed, and as you can see from here, import geodemo, no module name geodemo, and you have some errors and at the end. So that means when the package is being deployed and then trying to build the documentation, because we set the execute equal to true. Let me come back to here. If you open this one, so we set this one execute equal to true. You can also using a Visual Studio Code, might be easier. One way that if you want to, for example, in this case, if you want to use Visual Studio Code, you can do that as well. So in the URL, github.com, you can type 1s. So basically like 1 second. And then if you hit enter, it will automatically open this one using Visual Studio Code. So this is a nice way if you want to look at using Visual Studio Code to GitHub repository. And so keep that in mind, this is not officially provided by GitHub. It's by some other developers. It's an open source project, but it's a nice way that you can look at the source code if you use to use a Visual Studio Code. So we're going to figure out the issue. As I showed you earlier, it's because of documentation. So one thing that you can do is actually to comment out this one. If you control slash, you cannot do it in here because you cannot make changes. But if you open the Visual Studio Code on your local computer, and if you open the MK Docs, so one thing you can do is to actually comment out this one. So control slash and then control S to save the file. So if you don't execute the notebook examples, you actually don't need the geo demo, okay? Because the volume and also the IPyLib, we already put that in the requirements.txt here, but you cannot put the geo demo here in the same requirement because geo demo is actually this package, so you cannot include yourself as a dependency to this package, and that's why we cannot put geo demo here within this. But if we can go back to the notebook example, let me show you in here. The reason why we want to execute is because if you execute a source code, when the user see the website, they can actually see the map. They can zoom in, they can zoom out, right? So if you have some maps or you have some execution, you will be able to see the output. Also, maybe the IPyLib, but because IPyLib is different from volume, so you can actually see the map. But if there's any output, you will be able to see the output. So that's why we want the execute to be true. So anyway, so we're going to keep this one as it is. I'm going to control G. You don't need to make changes. So the reason why it went into errors is because of this one. So we're going to go into docs, and then from here, not docs, says GitHub workflows docs.yml. So this is where we're going to fix the errors. And one thing that you need to comment out is this line. So when it is building the documentation, actually we don't need to install this one. So the requirements _.txt, if you click this file in here, these actually are dependencies that we need later when we're trying to, for example, increase the version and also upload and also do some of the syntax or upload to PyPI and also to preview the website. So these are actually things that we need locally. So when it's building the documentation, actually it doesn't need this one. So sometimes this line actually is causing the errors. I have actually updated the package template. So in the future, if you create a new package, you won't have this line. So the first thing we want to do is just to essentially delete this one. So we don't need this one. The second thing we need to add is actually to install this package, because if in the notebook example, if I click the GeoDemo intro, import GeoDemo. So as you can see, we are using the GeoDemo, and so when you are building the package in here documentation, it's trying to import the GeoDemo. If it cannot be found, then it's going to throw an error. So one thing we want to do here when we install the dependency is that we also want to install the package. So you can follow kind of the same syntax in here, put the code at the end, and then hit enter, go to the next line, and then just pip install hyphen and then user, and then this is where you need to just put a period or dot. Okay, that's it. So if you put a period, that means it's going to install this package. Okay, so earlier in the previous video, I also show you how to basically you can use -e and then dot. This is when you are testing the environment, so you don't want to constantly install the package, so it will be linked to the source code. But when we are building the documentation, we actually can just install once, and then once you have the package, the notebook example should be able to execute and run successfully. So all we need to do is just remove the previous line and then add this line, and hopefully it will resolve the issue. Okay, once you make changes, then we need to push this one to GitHub. So all we need to do, we can just simply maybe say, let me make sure that the MK Docs. Okay, so this one is listed here. So if you have any additional notebook examples, you can add in here. You can add, have another menu. So essentially what we want to do is that later we want to add the GeoDemo intro example here, and all the source code will be executed. So let's come back to here, and then we can just push this one to GitHub. You can maybe just say updated docs.yml. That's it. and then Control Enter. Then we can push. It might take a couple seconds, and okay, it's done. Then we can come back to the GitHub repo. So click here, and you will see right now it's building. It might take a couple minutes. So what we want is that we want this one to be successfully executed, but also we want others, right? So the build basically means that the package is in a good state, and later we can read this to PyPI if you want. So I'm going to show you later how we can actually build this one and deploy to PyPI. But for now, we want to make sure that the documentation show up correctly in here. And once it's successful, then we can create a new release, and the new release will be published to PyPI. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when it's done. Okay, now the building process has completed successfully. As you can see now, this documentation has been built successfully. Then we can click the website and we can take a look at the new notebooks. So it's come up. Okay, so here it is, Geo demo intro. It's being executed. So if you see the number, that means the notebook has been executed. Although you don't see the map because IPyLiblet is using a different technology. It won't show up the map here unless you're using Jupyter Notebook. But for volume, it's different. Volume, you can show the map, but the limitations that volume is kind of limited. There's once the map is created, you cannot really do any interaction. You can only zoom in and can zoom out. That's it. You cannot really change anything. But the IPyLiblet, you can change stuff. But you won't be able to see the map unless you execute the source code on your local computer. Okay, so once we have this up and running, so things have been built up successfully. And so since we already added some functionality to the package, as you can see from here, right, although not much, but we already add something. And so this is basically the open source package development cycle. Once you add something and then you think it's in a good state, you might want to create a new release. So I'm going to show you here how you can actually create one, because in one of the previous videos, I think it's this one, publishing packages on PyPI. I already show you how to automatically create a package and also deploy. But here I'm going to show you on fly how you can, after you add functionality, how you can actually release the package. So, okay, so I'm going to go back to the Visual Studio Code. And so in here, if you want, you can we can actually build the package in here. So one thing that you want to do is that after you create the environment, we can actually do it from here. So let's see, you can open the terminal. So on the upper lower left corner here, once you click this one and then click terminal. So from the terminal, by default, it's going to use the conda environment. But for us, we want to actually use the environment that we created. So it will be conda activate demo. So this is the conda environment that we use. And then you can just pip this. Control C is pip space list. Okay. So here you should be able to see all the packages have been installed on this. And so we're going to use this one. Earlier, I mentioned that in order to create the release, we want to actually use some of these tools in here. So for example, the one that we're going to use is so-called bump version. So bump version, I'm not sure if we install this one before. No, so that's good. So what we want to do is that we want to install this all the requirements in here, similar to the documentation, right? If you see this one, pip install user and then requirements, but we actually want to use this one, so requirements.txt. But before I do that, I would recommend that just remove all the versions. So right, just install package in this way, because this one, some of the version might be too old, and then when you install the package, you might have some conflict. So we can just simply remove all of those. If you use the new package template, I already fixed this, so you don't have to do this one manually. But because I created the package previously, and you will see this one is some kind of a not being updated anyway. So one thing we want to do is that you can change all the versions. And first, you want to make sure that you can install this one successfully. So what you need to do is actually just type pip install -r, and then just type requirements. Requirements underscore dev.txt. So we're going to install all these packages right now to this environment so that you can easily to increase the version. Okay, so hit enter, and it should take a couple seconds to actually to download all the packages. And after that, we should be able to actually use the package easily to actually increase the version so that we don't need to we can create a new release on GitHub easily. Okay, so okay, it's done, and then you can hit Ctrl-L to clear the output. So the next one, what we want to do here, before we can create a new version, because we just make some changes, so you want to commit the changes first, and then we can increase the version. So the first one here, you can just commit, for example, let's say updated requirements dev.txt, and then you can just Ctrl-Enter. Okay, so you don't have to push this one to GitHub right now, but we just commit all the changes. That means we have already taken a snapshot. And after that, what you need to do is just go in here, bump version, and depends on how you want to go, because right now we have a version 0.02, right? So this is the last number is page, the second number is minor, and the first number is major. So we want to maybe increase to 0.03. That means we can bump version page. If you want to like increase to 0.10, then you will do bumped minor. So I just here bump version page. Okay, so this will be increased to 0.03. Like I said, if you want to 0.1, you can just minor. You will increase like that. So because right now we're only adding a small functionality, we don't want to increase the number too big. So and then hit enter. You should be able to see, if you go to the setup.cfg, you will see right now has been increased, right? So this is how you can use bump version the package to increase the number. And then the next command line you want to use is git push, and then -- text. So basically this is a tag, okay? And on the right side here, you will see like the changes that we just made, right? Bump version from 0.02 to 0.03. And so after we bump the version, we want to push this to GitHub. So git push -- text, and then hit enter. You will see it has been pushed to GitHub and has a new tag, right? And also to be safe, you want to just git push so that you will upload all the changes that you have committed on this repo. Okay, so it's done. Then we can come back to GitHub and we can take a look. So for now, like if I haven't refreshed it, it's 0.02. And let's refresh. It's still 0.02, but if you click in, or you can see the commits in here, right? So we have two commits. The first one is that we updated the requirements, the dev.txt. We also bumped the version. If you want to see exactly which file was changed, you can also take a look at the file. So basically, automatically handle that for you, rather than you have to manually change the file because you might have the version number in different locations. So the bump version is basically automate the process. Once we have the version bump, then we want to come to the release. Click this one, and so in here you have the version. You also have a tag, right? So the tag sometimes if you just want to release as you have something basically a tag to a version, basically name a version, but you might not necessarily have to have a release. Okay, but if you want to automatically release one to PyPI, then you can create a release from a tag. So okay, so click text, and then from here create a release, and I can say just the same. Usually you don't have to have a new name, so I just copy this one, paste in here, so the title will be exactly just like this. And so in here I can say maybe new features or improvement. This is basically the markdown. You can write whatever you want, but since we only add some minor functionality, I can just maybe edit function to Geo demo. That's it. Okay, you don't have to have a complicated one. You can just leave it like this, and then you can also do the preview, right? You can also you have multiple, you can have, for example, dash, and you will become a list, right? If you have multiple items, I can also say maybe fix docs build error, right? You can add as many as you like. One thing you want to do is basically go to a repo and then look at the commit history, whatever you change, and then you can actually add those to the release. Okay, so once we have this, then I just click this one, publish release. You hit enter, it will be published. So once you create a new release, it's going to trigger the new actions. So if you go to the actions, and then on here you see this one right now is running. So if you click the PyPI, it's basically this one is executing. So if you want to see the progress, you can look at that, and then we click in. This is basically the step-by-step how it's being executed, and it's all going to automatically push this one to PyPI. Okay, so it's completed, and you will see the green sign. This is the sign you want to see, and you can go back, for example, to the original one, GitHub repository workflow PyPI. So it's basically after you create a new release on here, right? So name on release. Whenever we create a release, it's going to execute this command line, and at the end, it's going to automatically publish this one to PyPI. So if you come back to the repo, if you click this on the left side here, PyPI, and you will take you to here. Okay, so this is where the package have been deployed. And so if the user, anyone want to install the package, right now they can use this one, pip install, and then after that they can come back here to this, take a look at this notebook example, for example geodemo, and they can just import geodemo, and then m equal, for example, geodemo.map, and then display. You can just install this. If you're watching this video, you can test it. You can install my package. This is just demo, okay? It doesn't really have a lot of functionality, or we will add a lot more later, but for now you should be able to install this package, and then follow my notebook example, import the library, and then create a map. It will be a much better map compared to the IPyLib, the default one, because we add some functionality to the default map, so that you don't have to go to write many lines actually to get what you want. Okay, so hopefully this will be useful. In the future, we're going to add a lot more functionality. So after you have a good set of features, and you want to release, this is how you actually goes through the process. Add functionality, push to GitHub, and then use the bump version to actually increase your version number. It can be page, minor or major, and then you can git push text, and then eventually you can create a new release on GitHub, and it will be automatically deployed to PyPI once you set up your username. But you need to make sure that you have set up, follow my previous video how to set up PyPI. Otherwise, it won't be automatically deployed, because you will need the username and password actually to do automatic deployment. You can go to settings, and then from here you should be able to see the secrets. You will be able to see this one, but you will need to have these two environment variables in here, so that it can Python can the GitHub actions can automatically deploy. If you look at this one more time, PyPI, and the last two here, secrets.py user, secrets.py password. So those are actually from the environment variables. So because these are plain text file, you don't want to have your password and username in here. It's not secure. So that's why it's being set up as environment variables. And we'll talk about a little bit more later in this course. But for now, I think that's all for this video, and hopefully you'll be able to resolve the issue and have a documentation website up and running with some examples, also executed example. And we're also going to improve this documentation later. And so far I have shown you how to create a PyPI, but later I'm also going to show you how we can actually release one to Conda first, so that people can also use Conda to install your package. Okay, that's all for this video. Hope to see you in my next one. Take care. Bye bye.